Lee's army away from the peninsula. That did not happen. Pope soon learned that Lee was driving north. One element of Lee's army was moving directly toward Pope. Jackson's wing was moving to strike Pope's flank. As Pope withdrew back toward Washington, he was reinforced by 3 of McClellan's corps after they arrived at Alexandria, Virginia. On 29 August, Lee's army collided with Pope's along the very same fields where the First Battle of Bull Run was fought 13 months before. Pope's attacks were repulsed that day. On the next day, Lee's counterthrusts devastated Pope, leaving the army with more than 14,000 killed, wounded, captured, or missing. In just over 1 year as commander-in-chief, Lincoln had suffered 3 successive defeats of his principal armies in Virginia. The total casualties by then reached over 33,000. Lincoln had to move fast as Lee's army surged north, crossed the Potomac River at White's Ferry near Leesburg, and then marched to Frederick, Maryland. Pope was reassigned, and General McClellan resumed command, leading the Army of the Potomac out of Washington toward Lee. On 14 September, he attacked Lee's well-positioned forces at Turner Pass, Fox's Gap, and Crampton's Gap in the South Mountain Range west of Frederick. It was a bloody ordeal. That same day, Stonewall Jackson's detached wing of Lee's army captured the entire Union garrison of nearly 13,000 troops at Harper's Ferry, Virginia. Lee fell back toward Sharpsburg, Maryland, and his army halted along generally high ground west of Antietam Creek, reinforced by most of Jackson's wing of the army. On 17 September, McClellan attacked Lee, but the attacks were launched piecemeal. He appeared to lack the skills of a great tactical commander, as had McDowell and Pope before him. The attacks against Lee's left flank along the northern end of the Antietam battlefield around the Dunker Church failed to break through. The fighting there was desperate and ferocious. Union troops found more success with attacks against Lee's center in a sunken road, but they were stopped by Lee's timely reinforcements. Along the southern end of the battlefield, McClellan's attacks were directed across a stone bridge over Antietam Creek. They drove Lee's right flank to the very edge of Sharpsburg, where again Confederate reinforcements, this time General A.P. Hill's division, arrived from Harper's Ferry, stopping McClellan's last assault. It was the bloodiest single day in American history. McClellan's casualties alone amounted to more than 15,000 for the campaign. Although Lee subsequently withdrew back across the Potomac River and the Army of the Potomac held the battlefield, Antietam was hardly a Union victory. McClellan seemed paralyzed after the battle. He finally moved his army on 26 October, but he was relieved of command at Warrenton, Virginia, and in his place Lincoln named Major General Ambrose Burnside. To recover and resupply his army, as well as to protect Richmond, Lee moved to Fredericksburg, Virginia. In response to Lee's movements, Burnside drove the Army of the Potomac to Falmouth, across the Rappahannock River from Fredericksburg. After constructing bridges across the river, on 13 December, Burnside launched a frontal assault in cold, misty conditions against Lee's defensive positions on Mary's Heights and along imposing high ground to the south. Confederates mauled the Army of the Potomac, which suffered nearly 13,000 casualties. Lincoln faced yet another humiliating loss. Burnside was not through, however. He attempted to dislodge and defeat Lee by means of a turning operation. The army would march alongside the Rappahannock River and cross at Banks Ford, and then get onto Lee's rear. On 20 January 1863, Burnside got his army underway during a brutal rainstorm that lasted for 2 full days. Roads turned into muddy quagmires, and even small streams swelled and became impassable. The operation was abandoned. In the wake of the Mud March, Burnside was relieved of command on 26 January. Lincoln turned over command to Major General Joseph Hooker. Hooker moved the Army of the Potomac along the Rappahannock River to Kelly's Ford, where it crossed and then marched to a crossroads called Chancellorsville, well behind Lee's army. Still at Fredericksburg, Lee got word of Hooker's movement and marched his army west, closer to Hooker's, leaving a division behind at Fredericksburg to protect his rear. Dividing his army, Lee sent